Hi, everyone. Get ready for a hands on learning experience. In this second episode of our series, Clay Jackson will walk you through how to customize and extend Foglight topology to better suit your environment. Whether you're looking to add new metrics, create tailored objects, or use the REST API for more flexible data collection, Clay will break down the concepts and steps to help you become more confident in managing your monitoring setup. And with that, let's get started.
Thanks, Jessica, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. Today we're in the Foglight 101 series, part two of the REST API. We're going to talk about how you extend your topology. Just a quick introduction here. I'm a senior pre-sales engineer, got a master's in software engineering, been with Quest for actually 13 years now. Spent 2 years on a Foglight customer advisory board before I came to Quest, and been in your shoes as a DBA and DBA manager and a software development manager. So been around a bit and done a fair amount of coding, which is why this is so much fun. So today we're going to talk, we got the introduction out of the way. We're going to talk about how to extend Foglight with the REST API, and we'll extend the topology specifically. We'll do a little review on what we've done in the past and why we're here. Then we'll get into a topology overview and another little demo of where we are. So, why are we here? Well, I had this crazy use case I needed to get done, which was to tell me whether or not my backups were taking place and happening correctly in my systems in my lab. So I built a Foglight uh, topology and API and system to report that and do that. And I'm going to actually share Foglight here. Here I'm in the Foglight schema browser, and you can see I've got the name of my metrics here. There's my N7QNM is my amateur radio call sign. I just use that to differentiate myself so that I know what's going on. You might want to do that when you're doing your own things. Pick a company name or a department name or something so you can figure out what it is you're looking at and segregate it from everything else. That way you can search for it. If I pull down the window here, you'll see, and I just type in, there we go, N7QNM last backup, and there are a bunch of other things I have as well. And you remember that I had a full date time stamp, full duration stamp, a size stamp, date time for incrementals, and a monitor host. And the 64-hour question is, how did I get there? How did I get this information into Foglight? And that's what we're going to cover today. So let's go back to my demo here in the slides, and we'll talk about the Foglight topology data model. Okay. Topology is a complex words for data model, right? It's the Foglight data model. We're object oriented, modular and reusable data representations. It's hierarchical, so we've got nested organizations. For example, you can have a host, and the host can have storage, and the host can have CPUs, and the host can have memory, and it can have a backup time and a backup statistics, and all sorts of things. It's also very extendable. So you can add your own. We can extend and customize existing objects. We can create brand new objects that fit your specific needs. And we can define and document it and manage it so you've got consistency, and then use services to enhance and automate that topology management. So let's jump right into a topology here. Here's my example of extending an existing type. And so I'd have my doc type and the information about that. And it's a topology types, and I'm going to extend that. And I've got N7QNM last backup is the name of this particular topology object. And you see, the first thing I do is define the name. I got to have a name. Always have to have a name. It's a string. Now, the next line that's highlighted there is kind of the magic in this. You see, what I've done there is I've put in the monitored host, and I've given a name monitored host, and it's type host. So when I populate this object, and you saw that last time in the C that I had, the Python that I had populating the object, if I put a host ID in that, the ID of the host, Foglight is going to automatically, magically associate that record, the rest of this record, with the host. So I can always find what my monitored host is. And when I go to manipulate those things, it'll have the host name there, and then the host is part of the work. And then I've got the full date time is a metric, full size is a metric. The other things are all metrics. And you can have metrics and observations. So in the case of a metric is what you're measuring and what's changing full time. And then an observation is what is static, and maybe you're monitoring different network interfaces and so on. So you have an IP address for that network interface, and that would be um, an observation. It's not going to change as much over time. It still change, but typically you have an observation of a metric that's associated with a network ID. So, for example, if you were managing or looking at dropped packets, you'd have an IP, and then you'd have as an observation, and then you'd have the metric drop packet count as a metric under that. So that's the what the API looks like to extend a type. Here's an API to and a topology object example to just add a new type. This is a brand new type here, and this is my weather system. I also alert and alarm on whether the temperature gets over 90 degrees. I send one alert, a critical alert. If it gets over 100, I send a fatal alert. So I can do those, and below freezing, same thing. If actually below freezing, I turn a pixel set blue, so I can tell it's below freezing. So there I've got the name again, the date, time, and also my air quality index. I have that as a metric, and outside temperature, wind gust, rain, and so on. It's just another example of a metric. In this case, it's not associated with a host or anything already in Foglight, so I'm extending an existing metric. Okay, let's jump back to another demo here, and I'll show you how we actually add this stuff. What I'm going to do here is show you, first of all, a VI screen. I'm editing my topology type here, and here's that N7QNM backup type, and you see it's just the same thing there. And I'm going to, you can use VI or Visual Studio or anything you want for code. I'm going to copy this, and then we will go back into Foglight, go up here, and we'll go to Data and add topology type. And I'm just going to paste this right into my Control V, and there we go. Now I've got that in there, and there's my source text. And you can see down here I've got a validate button. So I'll push the validate button, and I get the topology type is valid and can be imported. Now I'm actually not going to import this because I've already done that. But so now if we go back to the schema browser again, close this window here so I get my focus back, go back to schema browser, and look at N7QNM last backup, and there is my backup there. Now if I actually go to, so again, this just shows me what the schema looks like, and all the inherited properties. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of nice inherited properties tell me status and alarms and all those kind of things. And if I now go over to my script console, follow the breadcrumbs back up here, script console, and go here and type in N7QNM. Whoops. And here's my backup list instances. And there are all my instances. You recall that from the last demo. If I select one, you get that. And here's all the instances of and all the data for my backup for this host. There's the host name here, Fog Display. So that'll tell me when Fog Display was backed up. And if I go INCR here for incremental count, oops, got too many characters. If I go INCR, there you see I've got incremental date time, the date time of the last backup, and that's in Unix time, so it's time since the beginning of the epoch. And then the size of or the duration of the backup, 66 seconds. So that's how we keep track of that and how we get that topology object actually populated. And then if I'll go to my rules and notifications, and we'll manage my rule here. And again, I have this, it's a non-cartridge rule. You can see I got all my rules listed there, keeping track of a lot of different things. And I'll click on this rule here and go to view and edit. And here's my rule editor. So I have my rule definition. Comes into status, let's look at fatal here as one of the rules. And I have a condition that says if my incremental date time, again, this is right out of topology, and those hash marks in front and behind it say that that's a topology object. And if it's greater than the full date time, in other words, if the incremental backup time is after the full backup, I want to use that time as my time. Otherwise, I want to use the full backup time. And I look at that and compare that to compare the difference between that and the current date time. That system current date time is the current time. Compare that to incremental time or the full time. If it's more than 86,400, which is the number of seconds in a day, I say, okay, I'm going to throw an alarm, and my backup is over a day old, or over a day old. So there's something going bad if that happens, and I want to take a look at that and see what's going on. So I'm going to throw a fatal alert, and I can test my rule logic success. So that's how I would determine that I've got some sort of a problem and how I need to do it. And you can write these rules and do that for everything you want to do. And I've got a message here. This is last backup is so many days old, and email notification. It's actually done at the rule level and not at the individual action level, but I get an email that said that as well. So that's going to tell me what's going on. And that really is kind of end to end how we do this whole thing. First thing you want to do is come up with your topology. And again, we'll take a look at that. And here's my topology. Just a reminder, you've got a name, extends the topology object. And there are examples of this in the manual if you want to look in the Foglight manual and just search for add topology type. It'll show you how to do that. It's XML, so it should be fairly easy and straightforward to work with. You can use this as an example in the template. You can actually also take a type out of the system and use that. If you look in the Foglight directories, you can see where the samples are and the types.xml. If you hear this DTD topology types.dtd, that's the file I was using, and that's all relative to your Foglight home directory. In my case, that's /quest/Foglight. It's where I keep my directory. You can find that in your home directory. And then after the name, I have monitored host in this case because I'm associated with a host. Type is true. There's my date time again. And let's go look at the, let's get out of this for a minute. And we'll actually go look at the source again. So I'll show you that as well. And we'll go to, let's see, CD down one level to actually CD to bin. And here we go. Here's my Python code that does this again as a little refresher from last time. So got some global variables and I just defined some functions. So I know what I'm doing, connect to Foglight, go down here to main, and anyway, you can see that fairly simple Python code, nothing too involved or too fancy. Again, just simple Foglight. I call Foglight connect. Get some metrics here to find my host name, and then I can use the JSON that I get out of the alarm call on the alarm to populate a MQTT message that I send off to my alarm system and actually send the alarm to Foglight through that. So that is the way we do end to end the way we do Foglight extensions. So back to my slides here. A few reminders. This is an API. It's an application programming interface. All right, you're going to want to follow your software engineering principles and deal with things like error handling. Deal with no data. Make sure you deal with no data, because otherwise you can find yourself a real exceptions and throws an exception, and then Foglight gets unhappy, and you'll have to go look at log files and do all sorts of other things. So deal with it. Deal with the error handling right in your code, and write some sort of a intelligent message, so you can find it and look at it and see what's going on. Make your code modular. The REST API lends itself very nicely to microservices, so you can have a microservice to do this. Like I have these are effectively microservices to do my alerting and alarming for everything I'm doing. So use that, and stay focused on what you're doing. You're not going to break Foglight with this. You may corrupt some individual pieces of data, but you can always go fix those and look at those with a data browser. But you're not going to cause Foglight to stop monitoring other things or do things. You might stop monitoring, whatever particular code thing you're working on. But it's also good to have a development environment if you can. Don't do things in production. I know sometimes that's difficult not to, but if you have a development environment, that's a good place to start with this. And if you're going to be messing with the API and doing a lot of stuff, you probably really do want to have a development environment. Your application is your responsibility. Support can help you. If you call support and ask them questions, they'll help you get over some humps and do some things. Or if something's not behaving right, you can call them and send them a piece of code and say, why is it not doing this? Also, Copilot and ChatGPT are your friends. They do understand Foglight. We have uploaded the Foglight documentation into Copilot, so you can go take a look at Copilot and ask it, how do I do something in Foglight? And you should get a fairly reasonable answer back. And enjoy the process. Yeah, you're coding. You should be having some fun while you're doing this. Some essential resources and links: the Foglight homepage, and we'll be distributing a slide deck after this, so you'll have access to these. The REST API reference guide. Again, as I said in the last one, make sure you get the REST API reference guide that is specific to the version of the REST API you're using. And also make sure you're using the version of the REST API that is the same as your Foglight version. So when you upgrade Foglight, if you've got REST API functions, you should upgrade those as well and recompile those or check those to make sure that they're going to work with the current version of the API. And you can check the release notes. The Foglight, release notes will always contain the information relevant to REST API. If we made a change to the REST API, for example, when we moved from straight auth token to bearer token authorization, we documented that and we told you about that. So again, pay attention to that, pay attention to the documentation, and you won't run into problems. And some more resources and links. REST API, you can use Postman for all of this. Postman is a great tool for testing things out and running the API and seeing what happens. You can see what comes back, and oh yeah, that's why that came back. Look at the JSON, look at things, and make sure you're getting the right parsing and you're handling it correctly. Some Linux shell examples, some Python examples, some Java examples, and some Go examples of how to do that. So if you're working in Go or any of the newer languages, you can use that. And so that's all the resources. And with that, I'll turn it over to our question and answer team for any questions and answers or questions you might have, and hopefully some answers. Go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and we'll take a look and answer them. In the meantime, I'm going to, so the next screen here, there's the RSVP for the final part in the series, and building custom dashboards. And Darren Millett and I will be co-doing that on September 17th. And again, that wraps up the presentation. We'll hang around for questions and answers, but have a nice day. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you at the next session.